My dear friends, I am so happy to see so many of us here today, Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated, to hear from our guest. Throughout his public life, our guest has been a progressive advocate, whether in serving in the Clinton administration, serving in City Hall in New York, as part of the Dinkins administration. In addition to his service as a member of his local school board, and then a 3-term New York City councilman, 2 terms as public advocate in New York. That is the job of the ombudsman, the person who receives all the complaints and tries to solve the problems. And finally, in 2013, mayor of the city of New York, re-elected in 2017, we are dealing with a man who holds the job that when I was a kid was called the second toughest job in America. And I think he has done a much better job of the second toughest job than the unfortunate who holds what we're told is the toughest job. Without more words from me, because quite frankly, you did not come here to hear me. You came here to hear our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to introduce to you Bill de Blasio, the 105th mayor of the city of New York, and a Red Sox fan.
Well done. Thank you. That was one of the most wonderful introductions I've ever had, so I really want to thank you for that. That was beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the chance to be with you. I am really happy to be in Antrim and to get a chance to spend some time with you. I want to just commend everyone because I grew up in New England myself. I grew up in Massachusetts, as did my wife, Charlene, and I understand how deep the civic and democratic culture is and how deeply people get involved in their communities. I want to thank you for keeping that alive and making that strong. And a special congratulations to the Antrim Democrats for concluding your caucus successfully. Well done, everyone. A round of applause. And yes, I want to affirm out loud that I am a Red Sox fan and I am proud of it. And when I want to tell you something about people that when they see you're telling the truth, they appreciate it. So when I ran for mayor of New York City, I told them that I grew up in Massachusetts, that the first team I remembered was the 1967 Impossible Dream Boston Red Sox, right? Carl Yastrzemski, Jim Longborg, all of that. And so I never stopped loving the Red Sox. I was just at spring training a few weeks ago, to tell you the truth. And it's something I just told the people in New York City, this is who I am. And I think they appreciate hearing the truth. So I encourage everyone, wherever you are, tell them you're a Red Sox fan. They'll admire you for it. So I just want to tell you, I really appreciate this chance to be with you. And I appreciate it because not only everyone here being so committed to their community and their state, but because we, as people who care about the future of this country, we need to talk, all of us, to each other to make sense of what you just referred to, some of the challenges we're facing. And I have great faith that we have a lot in common. It doesn't matter what size town or city we come from. I hear tremendous common interests wherever I go, that people really want to talk about the same things. And I think it comes down to our lives as we live them. It comes down to our families. And I will tell you in terms of my family, my wife Charlene and I, we have gone through sort of a classic reality of so many families. We started out filled with the hope that young newlyweds feel, and we got married 25 years ago. Our 25th anniversary is in May, which I'm really looking forward to. And we had our daughter, we had our son, 2 children, so we were a young family. Things were going pretty well. We both had full-time jobs. We both were working really hard. And we could make ends meet. but it was hard. I'm going to move over here just a little more so I can get everybody. And things were going okay until one day, my mom, who at that point was in her 80s, fell ill. So we moved her closer to us so we could care for her. And then my wife's mom, also in her 80s, fell ill. And I should note, I've just come here to Antrim from Claremont. My wife's mom, Catherine, actually was born and grew up in Claremont. And we were just visiting the house she was born in and grew up in there. Well, she was living in her later years in Vermont. And when she fell ill, we moved her to New York so we could take care of her too. So now it's 2 young children, 2 older parents, 2 full-time jobs. And it was getting harder and harder and harder. My wife worked so hard helping everyone else, she started to get sick herself. Now this is where I want to ask everyone here if any of this is immediately resonant, because I know how hard people work. I know how much people are devoted to their families. I know how difficult it can get to make sense of all those pieces with the cost of things the way they are and with the way modern life is working. So I just want to do a quick show of hands on this. For you yourself or people in your family, let me ask you if anyone in recent years has felt they've had trouble making ends meet. Anyone? Let me ask if anyone in recent years has felt they didn't have enough time either for yourself or for your family, if you felt there wasn't enough time. Let me ask if this last question, if you felt that even though modern life was supposed to be filled with greater and greater convenience, does it feel more stressful than it used to in a lot of ways? Well, the majority has spoken, and I feel I get the same answer. It doesn't matter if I'm in a larger city or a smaller town or what state I'm in. People feel the same. And I put this in the context of a lot of decisions that have been made, particularly in Washington, that have affected our lives, because when you think about it, if people are working as hard as everyone is, a lot of people working very long hours, 2 jobs or even more, whatever their reality, they're working hard. We are, by the way, a very productive country. We're the most productive country in the world. Our working people are the most productive anywhere. People are working longer and harder, but they're not getting enough back. And I think we have to talk about this very openly. You know, this next year or 2 is a chance to really talk about who we are as Americans and where we need to go. And we need to see it as a precious moment. I know people in New Hampshire do, because you're one of the stewards of this national discussion. You're the people who really interview the candidates for everyone, and I know you take that responsibility very, very seriously. But beyond the question of candidates, we have to decide what our values are and where we're going. I look at this question of everyone working so hard and not getting rewarded for it, and then the policies that make that situation, in my view, even worse, and I think it's time to bring that out in the open. I wish I could tell you that this reality all occurred by accident, but I think it was very conscious. I believe you can look from the 1980s with the election of Ronald Reagan to very recently with the tax cuts that President Trump pushed through for the wealthy and for corporations. And you can see a reality that more and more money has ended up in fewer and fewer hands. That government policies, particularly federal policies, have led to a concentration of wealth and power in the hands of very few people. We call them the 1%. It's even fewer than 1% of the people in this country that actually control the vast majority of the wealth and power. I don't find that particularly American. I don't find that consistent with our values. I don't find that at all consistent with the values of a town like this, steeped in the traditions of democracy where everyone participates. What is a greater expression of democracy than a New England town hall meeting? Well, what's happened on a national level, to me, has diminished our democracy, because you see this kind of skew that I don't think is healthy. And I believe we've got to talk about it out loud, or we're going to do something about it. Whenever you say, how are we going to change all that? What are we going to do that's different, that's going to help people? How are we going to make people able to have a better life? Maybe work a little less hard, take care of their families a little bit better, help their kids get a little bit better education. What are we going to do? A lot of times you will hear it when anyone suggests we can make those kind of changes. you'll hear folks say there's no money. Great idea, but there's no money. Where do we find the money? I say very bluntly, there's plenty of money in this world. There's plenty of money in this country. It's just in the wrong hands. It's in the hands of a few. And that, to me, is the root of our problem. And we have to do something about it, and I believe we can. And I believe that because I've experienced it. I appreciate the allusion to the second toughest job in America. Whatever number job it is, it's tough, I can tell you that much. I've got a lot of people that I have to look out for, and a lot of challenges. But we decided that we would do something very conscious, that we would make sure that more and more money went back to working people. So we did some very simple things. One I'm particularly proud of. We decided that we should make it universal that all our 4-year-old children got pre-K for free. We decided that if we were going to have a society that really worked, we needed our kids to be better educated, and we knew we could reach them in those early years better than any time of their life, and it was an investment worth making, and also for working people, working families who couldn't afford it. We want everyone to have that opportunity. We decided that folks who were working and got sick, because everyone gets sick at some point, or had a loved one get sick, a child get sick, that they should not lose a day's pay because they have to go to the doctor. We passed paid sick leave law. It reached 500,000 people that said simply, if you get sick, you get to take care of yourself and your family, you don't lose that day's pay. We decided that people needed to know they could get health care. A huge number of people had no insurance, and they were not getting health care. You know what was happening? Folks in our city, like everywhere in this country, without insurance, weren't going to the doctor, were getting sicker and sicker, were going to work, unfortunately ending up getting sicker themselves and sharing their sickness with everyone else. And then they go to the emergency room at a hospital, which is the worst of all worlds in terms of anyone being well, but also the worst of all worlds for our taxpayers. Because the place where you're going to pay the most for health care is if people end up in the emergency room, or if people end up hospitalized who might have been able to avoid it if only they got health care to begin with. We now have a policy that says anyone who needs a doctor, we assign them a primary care doctor to one of our public hospitals so they can get help directly. And the last thing I want to say to you is an example of changes I believe we can make that are fair to working people. This is the only industrialized country in the world. I mean, this is one of these things that really opens your eyes. The only one in the world that does not guarantee any time off for working people. In some of the strongest economies in the world, free enterprise system, booming economies, they still believe that working people deserve some time off. When I asked you earlier, do people feel, like they had less and less time, more and more stress? Well, that's partly related to the fact there's a lot of people in this country who get almost no time or no time off because there's no law to protect them. We're passing a law in our city that says everyone who works should get 2 weeks of paid time off every year. Have an opportunity to recharge, spend time with their family, take care of themselves, live life a little better. Because we're not here on this earth just to work and struggle to make ends meet. We deserve a more decent life than that. I am such a believer in this country. I believe it is the greatest country in the world. But I think a lot of our people aren't getting to live the way you would expect people should in the greatest country in the world. I think a lot of people have felt their quality of life going backwards, not forwards. I think a lot of people feel the next generation is going to be worse off, not better off. The kind of changes I'm talking about are needed so people can live a decent life. And I'm telling you they're real because we're making them happen. We're making them happen and showing that they can happen for everyone. So I just want to thank you for this chance to be with you. And if there's a chance to have a little dialogue, I would love that and I would appreciate it. But I just want to tell you, everything I'm saying is with a spirit of hope and a spirit of optimism, because for 5 years, half a decade, I have been in the position to see how much change can be made if we do it on behalf of all working people. How much change is available to us. All the voices out there to say we're stuck in a morass or we're a divided country, I don't think that's our larger reality. I think we're having a tough moment. I think we're going through a little bit of an identity crisis as Americans. But in the end, I believe our essential values will win the day. And I believe a country this big, this strong, this good can serve all its people a lot better. And I think we all have a chance to decide that in the next 2 years. And I have great faith that you all are going to make a big impact as citizens of New Hampshire in that process. And I want to tell you it's just an honor to have had this chance to be with you today. Thank you.
Friends, the mayor would love a question and answer session. Please ask.
Please.
Hi.
Hey.
Our legislation just voted on trying to pass a bill for minimum wage. So far, they went up to $9.50 by 2020. I think that's totally ridiculous because I've seen people struggle with rents in the state. They can't even live and put food on their tables, and you would never let me eat. On $7.50, never mind, on $9.50 you wouldn't be able to do either. I understand that New York went up to $15 an hour. How would you, how could you help us as a state as far as ways to put our minimum wage up to $15 so people can actually live?
So the best way to help people in each state is if we had a national standard that was actually fair. And I'm the first to say the cost of living is different every place. And I accept the notion you might have to have some way to adjust for those realities. But I'm a believer in the $15 minimum wage. We fought for it in New York for years. And I want to tell you why I'm a believer in it. 2 important reasons. One, you just said it. People can't make ends meet on minimum wage. How is it minimum wage as an idea if it's not enough for a family to live on? That idea, maybe once upon a time minimum wage actually was minimum wage and you could live on it, but that's been outmoded for a long, long time. So we have to be honest as a nation about the fact that we can't call it a minimum wage and believe it's protecting people if it's too little to live on by far. $15 to me, if you're trying to come up with one standard to begin with for the country, is fair. The other point is, we had this debate very intensely in New York. And I guarantee you what we heard from a lot of folks was, and a lot of opponents I should say, that it would destroy our economy, it would lead to job loss, that a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, would fail. I never felt that was true, and it has not proven to be true. We have right now the most jobs we've ever had. Our minimum wage has been going up steadily, and our job growth has been going with it. And there's more than one reason. But I really firmly believe that what some of the economists tell us, Henry Ford said the same thing a century ago, the only way there's going to be more and more jobs is if working people have money in their pocket to buy things with. And as working people's incomes have gotten tighter and tighter, and more money has flowed to the 1% who don't spend it. I mean, remember this, folks who are that wealthy don't buy things every day. You know, they, unfortunately, they save it, they invest it, but they don't spend it on the kinds of things all the rest of us buy. The absence of a reasonable minimum wage is holding back the economy. So all the fear that you hear, and I know a lot of it is good-hearted, but we find the opposite. When the minimum wage goes up, the economy actually strengthens and there's more opportunity. I would like to help in any way I can to support the efforts in this state and to join and rally with all those who want to make a change. But I think it has to be a crucial part of this discussion all over the country. And the best solution is to take it out of some of the local political debates and make a national policy that's fair to everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Who else? Back there.
I'm just interested in how you approach, you mentioned all working people should get 2 weeks paid vacation. Where do you factor in, is this who are full-time employees part-time employees. I know, speaking from experience in Maryland, that academic institutions cut money by having more and more adjunct faculty.
Yes, they do.
So they do not have to pay the benefits that they have to pay to the full-time faculty, so people end up working 3 jobs. But it happens to people working at McDonald's or whatever, that they're only part-time, they don't get all the benefits, so then they end up working 2 or 3 part-time jobs in order to make ends meet. And how do you factor that or solve that in terms of these people should be getting 2 weeks paid vacation either, and most laws wouldn't even require because they're only part-time employees?
No, it's a great question. So I want to separate. First of all, we say in our law that people have to accrue the time. You don't just show up and say, I want my 2 weeks. So they actually have to have worked long enough and accrued the time. But it follows for full-time people. If you're working 52 weeks a year, full-time, of course you need the time off in my view. If you're part-time, it tracks proportionally, meaning it depends on how many hours you work, how much you get off. But the notion is that people who are working consistently, and you're exactly right, a lot of times part-time means 2 or 3 part-time jobs strung together just to make ends meet. The notion that someone would just work year in and year out and never get a break is unhealthy on every level you can think of. It's just unfair to people. By the way, I can say this as a parent. It is hard to be a parent in the modern age. There's way too much information out there for that kids get exposure to. Schedules are busier than ever. The achievement that's expected of kids is greater than ever. It's hard to be a parent. Parents need some time off to be the best parents they can be. Families need time off to be together. Individual people, just to enjoy life, need time off. We have a society that less and less is respecting the idea that people are humans who need that opportunity to enjoy life. But we do adjust it depending on part-time, full-time, but we're trying to create the idea universally that you should not go for huge amounts of time and never benefit from some time off. Who else? Anybody? Please.
Would you like to say something about climate change?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Global warming, I don't need to give a big speech, I think, about the existential threat it is. It is the threat that could change all of our lives irreparably. I think this is the opportunity this year, next year, to once and for all get a national consensus that it has to be addressed with extraordinary focus. It has to be, for those of us who remember the Marshall Plan or whatever other example you want to give, we have to put everything we got into stopping global warming. And we can. The good news is we can really do profoundly important things. I do believe in the Green New Deal. I believe the Green New Deal, even though there's a lot to work out, I believe the reason to support the Green New Deal is it's a call to arms that recognizes if we don't change intensely quickly, we're going to run out of rope. And then I say this as a parent, we're going to leave our kids and our grandchildren in the lurch if we don't do something very different very quickly. Now, why I can be optimistic is that I see the big changes that are possible, that we can do right now. We, for example, decided as a city, we have a huge number of retirees. We have pension funds that support them. We made the decision to divest our pension fund holdings from fossil fuel companies. First major city in America to do that. In our case, that meant $5 billion taken away from the fossil fuel companies. We said we will now, from this point forward, consistently actually invest money in renewables, because renewable energy, it will speed up, the development will speed up if more and more resources and more of the market goes that way. We committed to invest $4 billion in renewable energy and keep investing. We're going to an all-electric city car fleet. We're building electric charging stations all over our city. These are the kinds of things we could be doing all over the country, because we know electric vehicles work and we could be converting to them rapidly, but you have to put that infrastructure in place. So from my point of view, a lot of the tools are here. This is why, as dangerous as this moment is, as frightening as it is, it's not hopeless. A lot of the tools are here. The technology is actually moving rapidly. I was in Iowa a few weeks ago, and you saw the wind farms, which are extraordinary. I mean, the amount of renewable energy that's starting to grow around this country is really encouraging, but it needs investment. We do that quickly enough, I believe we can make a difference in time, but it's got to be a federal priority. This is the amazing thing. There is no national policy to address climate change at this moment. That's just a fact. There's no policy. There's nothing telling localities what they have to do. It's the other way around. There's 400 American cities, mine is one of them, that decide of our own volition to sign on, if you will, to agree to the specific elements of the Paris Agreement. We want to do them ourselves. We're committed to 80% reduction of emissions by 2050. We're doing that ourselves. Our federal government should go back to doing it and should be helping everyone else move forward. But I think the good news is people do want it. People are ready for it. Please.
I wondered if you've studied the federal job guarantee, which is included in the Green New Deal that AOC is proposing with the backing of some very fine economists.
So I liked your question because you used the word study, and I like to be honest. I have not studied it. I don't pretend to be expert. I think it's the right direction. I think the notion of ensuring that working people have jobs available and a decent level of income is very consistent with what I'm saying. I need to look at the fine points to know if there's anything I would modify, but as a philosophical matter, I absolutely agree with it. Thank you. Yes?
In 1969 and 1970, the well-known Marxist-Leninist Richard Nixon advocated for guaranteed family income of $6,500 a year. That would be $25,000 to $30,000 today. There are a bunch of universal family income proposals that folks running for the presidency, you know, it's good to do something, are pushing. What is your feeling about the federal government-sponsored universal basic family income?
It's an excellent question, and I have to tell you, as someone who's not yet a candidate, I've got some things I need to study up on for sure. I've been running a big, complicated place, but there's a whole host of other issues that I want to learn more about and be able to be definitive about. I can tell you what my mixed feeling is, though, at this point, because I've started to study it, and we've thought about how we would use it locally. I like the notion of, again, taking this horrible economic insecurity out of people's lives that exists right now. So directionally, I like that a lot. What I worry about is the possibility of it becoming a rationalization for a world in which a lot of people don't have work. And this is just a fear that I have not yet had answered. I think work for so many people, it should not be the only thing that defines them by any stretch of imagination. I think it's a very important part of life for so many people. And I worry about some of the universal basic income concepts that seem to create a notion that some people have work and other people won't. I think some of the folks who have backed it, I worry about, are using it as a little bit of a rationalization for the fact that they want to see the world continue to have this skew of income, which I worry about. I'm not saying that's everyone. I'm saying some of the idea behind it seems to me to not answer the basic question, how do we actually have a world where everyone gets to work, but work is rewarded for everyday people? So open, but questioning. Who else hasn't gone? Yes?
One of the problems of our state, I think, is one of the largest problems. This is where the old folks come to visit their parents, and which is a problem for health concern. We have colleges that do focus on nursing and doctors, but they don't stay. They go where the money is, and that's our problem.
Well said. Well said. I just was visiting my aunt up in Eastport, Maine. She's 92 years old. And I say this in answer to your question. incredible community of friends she has in their 80s and 90s in some cases. But Maine is a place, I know New Hampshire is also a place that's struggling. Where is it going to be the balance of younger people who stay or younger people come in to create a healthy society? So I'd say a couple of things. First of all, I believe in universal health care, and I think this underlies the whole discussion. Universal health care, one, would support senior Americans and one of their number one challenges economically and personally. Two, it would create, in my view, a much stronger health industry in a lot of the places where older Americans need help the most. You see these horrible examples of hospitals closing, nursing homes closing, because they're based only on a dollars and cents equation. They can't survive in rural areas or smaller towns. That's really hurting a huge number of older Americans. In a universal health system, we'd have much greater chance of keeping a lot of those institutions available and strong. I also think it absolutely relates to comprehensive immigration reform. There are a lot of people who have skills, who would love to come to towns all over America and contribute. We've seen very good examples around the country of a mix of longtime residents and newcomers creates a more vibrant, balanced economy. But we're not allowing that if we don't have coherent immigration laws. And this really bugs me. Again, this is why I am hopeful a national discussion could be really good for us. Because right now, for the lack of comprehensive immigration reform, we have farms all over America that can't harvest because there's no one there to do the work. And we have seniors all over America who could use folks who want to go in one of those helping professions, and there's not enough local young people who can do it or will do it. And we're not connecting these dots. I actually think if we could have a discussion on immigration that got to the needs of everyday people and how immigration could help everyday Americans rather than be an us versus them kind of fear factor, I think a lot of people would embrace that kind of change. I'll give some folks on this side, please.
What is New York going to do? How is New York going to handle the fact that China is now refusing to take our recyclables and waste? And how might that trickle down to New Hampshire?
That is a fantastic question. And you are well informed, and you're raising a question that's really worrying us. We all got a little comfortable with a certain way of handling recycling. And just at the point where we're trying to expand recycling greatly, we would like to see it grow and grow. But that notion of an international recycling market is really flawed. We're going to have to come up with our own version, is the truth. And it's somehow going to have to be encouraged by government differently. There's no question that the products are reusable in different forms, but the way things have been structured has been, again, based on a kind of profit and loss model that brought China into the game. We're going to have to think about something, I think, bigger than that, different than that. That's about environment first and less about just dollars and cents only. And create our own industry here in this country to keep all those products and reuse them. We do not, and this is, it's very important for anyone in public life, if you don't have the answer or the perfect answer, or you're working on it to be able to say it to someone, you are asking the right question. I think the answer is, starting with our city, we're trying to figure out something very different and see if we can spark it. But again, this should be a national policy that says the best thing in terms of global warming would be for recycling to be done on a huge scale in this country. A lot more jobs would go with it. And we are hiring a lot more sanitation workers because we have a very intensive recycling system. These are good jobs, but we're going to have to build a way to reuse those products ourselves. Please.
I'm glad you brought up universal health care. So I like the idea of it. When someone asks me to do them a favor, I say, well, what is it first? So how much is it going to cost?
All right.
So I pay around $800 a month for my wife and I. So there's $9,600 a year. Universal health care. So instead of me paying my premiums to the insurance company, it's going to be taxes. How much?
Everyone who believes in it has to put out their own version. And again, I happen not to be a candidate today, but if I ever were, it would be my obligation to give you a very specific model. But I can give you at least the beginnings of it now because I know what I feel. I see people really struggling with the combination of paying premiums, deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses, co-pays. When you really look at all the ways, and obviously it depends on each family and what their health situation is, but that slippery slope, you know, the dominoes can fall really fast. So what we have right now is people paying lots of hidden or unexpected costs, get much greater very quickly if there's a health crisis, and obviously can become catastrophic for a lot of families. And we know a lot of families who have literally, under our current system, basically gone into bankruptcy of one form or another because they couldn't pay their health care costs. I'm glad we have the Affordable Care Act because it was a step forward, but it's not an answer. And so, from my point of view, if we said to people, we're going to take away those costs, yes, you're right, there will be some amount of taxes that will have to cover the alternative. Some of that will come from taxing the wealthy at a level they should be taxed, which they're nowhere near at this moment. A much more progressive tax on the wealthy would be an important part of it. But I do believe it would net out in favor of working people. And I certainly think for everyone who knows that you could go down that slippery slope. And I've seen it in our lives. I saw two parents go from perfectly healthy to very, very ill and then stay that way for years. I think a lot of people have had that experience or something else like it. You want to be part of an insurance system that's actually going to cover the whole thing. And that's just not the reality for so many people right now, even folks who are insured. So, yes, there's going to be a price tag. I believe it will net out in favor of working people. I think people end up paying less in whatever tax they will pay than all the ways they pay now. Please.
Yeah, there's a lot of great policies in that, such as universal health care, living wage, these things. But we're in a crowd here, everybody's going to like those policies.
Yeah.
Outside, we're in a case of what's going to happen from the other side. They're going to call us all socialists. We're going to hear socialism more than we've heard since McCarthy. So how are you going to respond when Tucker Carlson says you're socialist?
I think Tucker Carlson's not looking so good right now. So I would welcome that accusation from Tucker Carlson. You have to, what did Popeye once say? I am what I am. You have to be who you are and say, this is what I believe in. I don't use that label. I call myself a social democrat because that's what I feel I am. And there's countries around the world I think epitomize a more fair society. But I don't get caught up in if they're going to throw that word at me or anyone else. I say, let's go over again what I believe in. Universal health care, higher minimum wage. I believe that working people should have some time off. I believe that wealthy should be taxed at a higher level. I guarantee you, if we keep just saying resolutely, this is what we believe, this is how it will affect your life, there's a whole lot of people across the spectrum that can respond to that. But if they see fear in your eyes, if they see people shirking away from their own values, that's when voters lose respect. And honestly, I say this as a Democrat, I know people in this room are different parties, different views, but as a Democrat, I want to say I'm troubled that my own party ran away from supporting working people and ran away from progressive values. And I think that's when we lost ground. I think if voters knew who we are, they could say, I don't agree with you on some issues, but you actually believe in something. And I know you're speaking from the heart, and that you're trying to look out for working people. Now, I think issue by issue, look at what Republicans think on taxing the wealthy more. The polling data in this country consistently says Republicans think the wealthy should be taxed at a higher level too. Republicans think there's too much big money in politics. A lot of these positions we might fall in the trap of thinking are just Democratic or just progressive positions. They're more universal than you might believe. But we're not going to attract a consensus. We're not going to attract Republican independent voters if they think we're ashamed of what we believe in. So I think it can be done to just push by the label, say what you're going to do for people. Please.
Yeah, back to the issue of climate change. I really appreciated your answer earlier, but I was also wondering about national measures that can be taken to disincentivize use of fossil fuels. So cap and trade, carbon tax, denying permits for new oil and gas pipelines, withdrawing federal lands from oil and gas exploration. What are your views on that set of ideas or other ideas?
Yeah, we have to, so I'll tell you a life experience that was very moving to me, that Pope Francis invited a variety of leaders from around the world, primarily mayors, to the Vatican. I think it was 2015. I was honored to be one of them invited, and when he put out his encyclical that spoke about addressing global warming. And while I was at that conference, I heard I think a great progressive voice, Jeffrey Sachs, say a simple line at one of the gatherings. He said, we have to strand fossil fuels in the ground. And that's what I believe. We have to very consciously recognize this is a poison. That's why our city divested. We're also suing the fossil fuel companies because we believe, just like the tobacco companies, they knew what they were doing to the earth and they kept doing it, and we're all paying for it. So from my point of view, we have to have a conscious effort to strand those fossil fuels in the ground. We should not be issuing new permits. We should be, right now, as I said, I just was in the heartland of Iowa, and the wind farms are going up, and they're creating a huge amount of jobs and a whole lot of energy. We need to be moving all of our efforts in that direction as quickly as possible. So I think we're going to need to use, I'll state the obvious, a variety of tools. But it's time to stare down the fossil fuel industry and say, your day is over. I'll tell you one other quote that moved me a lot. When we divested in fossil fuels, I had the honor of speaking to Al Gore afterwards, and I told him what we had done. He was very positive about it. And he said, Bill, I guarantee to you people will say, be careful about, the investments you make and how much return you get in your investments and all that. And he said, you tell them we're doing the smart thing, because who on earth would invest in an industry that's going to have to leave a lot of its assets in the ground and never be able to tap them? So on a business level, fossil fuel industry is the past. And we have to get away from it. And every time we take away resources from it, we're just speeding on the inevitable in our favor.
Please. We're battling a pipeline in New Hampshire right now. I don't know if any of you really know about it. It's called Granite Bridge. And they want to bring gas from Stratham through up the 101 corridor. They want to put this huge LNG tank in Epping, which is going to be bigger than the one on the Southeast Expressway in Boston. And it's being done by Liberty Utilities, who was also in favor of the NAB pipeline and the Kinder Morgan pipeline. And they're trying to put this stuff in Hanover, an LNG tank in Hanover, an LNG factory in Hanover, and they're trying to put one in Keene. And the whole idea is to come in the back door so that they can get the pipeline they wanted from us on the southern part of New Hampshire to get this gas through to Drake, Mass, so they can get up to Nova Scotia and overseas. And people don't realize that our governor has been pushing this. A lot of our senators have been pushing this, and people have to start looking up the stuff that's going on. We do not need the gas here. What we need is for them to stop raising the price to transmit the gas or the oil or whatever the fuel, electricity to our houses. That's where we're getting all our costs. We're paying 300% more than the rest of this country in transmission fees. If you look at your electric bill right now, your transmission fees are going to be more than what you're actually getting in electricity. And that needs to be stopped. And this is, a lot of us are being called, tree huggers and activists, but this is what's going on in our state right now. And everybody needs to open their eyes and see it. And our governor is pushing really hard. He's even spoken to say that he wants Kinder Morgan to come back. We do not need this in our state, and that's all I have to say.
Nicely said. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
New York City is a lot different than most towns in New Hampshire.
Strong opening.
Well, what I would like to know is, in light of the recent attacks in New Zealand,
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about what you believe is the role of our political leaders to set an example regarding cultural, diverse communities in this country.
Amen. Beautiful question. Thank you.
So one, I really believe this in my heart, to the first part of your point. Yeah, we all think we're different. I don't think we're that different. I think the issues that people talk about, big state, big city, small town, shockingly similar. And the things that right now we're fearful about as a country are the same almost everywhere. So I think as a country there's a lot of things that actually are pure common interests among all of us, and we should just speak to each other as if we're all on the same side. You know, that we all have a lot in common, we all have a lot that we have to work out together. To your very powerful question, I want to give the example of our city. So I represent and lead what is arguably the most diverse place on earth, 8.6 million people, every conceivable background, every faith, you name it. And specifically to the question of the Muslim community. So we have the largest Muslim community in the country. And against the backdrop of a lot of pain, a lot of division in this country, we made a decision to show a positive, embracing attitude toward our community. One example, that the community was very concerned, because they have a very big presence in our public schools, and they saw that there were rightfully Christian holidays that are days off for our public schools, Jewish holidays that are days off for our public schools. We have a very big Jewish community too, but the two key Muslim holidays were not days off. And I wanted to reach a hand to the community and say, we're all in this together, and we truly believe in equality in this city, in this country, and we honor people of all backgrounds. So we made those two holidays official school holidays. And you could see what it meant to the community, that we're talking hundreds of thousands of people, that they felt included, they felt they were part of the city in a different, new way. And you could say the same thing about our country. By some estimates, about 6 million Muslim Americans. They need to hear a message from leaders, starting with the president, that they're part of something that we all believe in, and they're just as important, just as valued as anyone else. And if you want to think about what goes through the mind of people in a community, if you want people to feel the loyalty and love for their country that we aspire for everyone to feel, you have to show respect and inclusion back. We all, I can say, I never felt excluded growing up. I always felt like this was a country for me. I don't want anyone in this country to feel like they're being told by their leaders they don't belong here. That's a very un-American approach, and it's a very dangerous one. So I'll bring it together and say, we set an attitude of inclusion. I've been to plenty of mosques when there have been attacks on Muslim communities around the world, or hate crimes in our city. We've come to show solidarity, as have clergy of all backgrounds. The same when the horrible tragedy in Pittsburgh with the Tree of Life Synagogue. The same when Christian communities are under attack. Everyone comes to each other's defense visibly. And what we find is that brings the temperature way down. Even in New York City, you think of a very intense place, the relationship between communities has gotten more and more respectful, more calm and peaceful, because we're fostering an atmosphere of mutual respect. It is amazing how much leaders can change the tone and change people's thinking, either for the positive or the negative. Now, I will offer that I think we're getting an object lesson in the negative the last few years, and the rise in hate crimes would not be happening if it wasn't what was happening in Washington, D.C. right now. It is the root cause. But you know what? It can be put in reverse in a good way. Leaders who say we're actually all in this together can create a more unified country. And we're thinking about our security. Every time we use the word security, everyone in this room, I think, probably pictures, our military in another country defending us. There's another version of security, us being unified right here. People feeling right here that we're all in this together is tremendously important to our security. If leaders actually speak that way, it can happen. Thank you.
Friends and neighbors, I thank you very much. His honor has a few other places to visit today, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for a chance to be with you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
time to sit this one out. It's time to get on my feet. Rise up and move to the rhythm of my pounding heartbeat. Passions are fired up. I will not fade away. Thunder driving through me. So much to do and say. Wake up, shake up. Step up, step out.
Welcome. I'm Mary Yule, and this is MPA Today. Today, we're going to be speaking with Andrea Palizis, who is a MPA leadership team member, as well as a Rights and Democracy Educational Fund committee member. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Mary.
It's really nice to have you here today, and I believe that we're going to really be talking about getting the vote out.
We really are, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
And so, if we're going to try to get the vote out, everyone at home and us, with the election season being about a month away, we really need some ideas, because I think most people just, think the same old thing. They can't make a change. They can't do anything. Their neighbors don't vote. Maybe their child doesn't vote. Maybe their husband doesn't vote, or their wife.
Right.
Right? And how can we go outside our community and help people and maybe give them that little nudge?
Exactly.
To participate.
And this is what I've been thinking about, because I know that I'm not the only one that is often uncomfortable with canvassing and phone banking. And by goodness, they are really important things to do. And I'm so grateful that we have people who do them.
Well, then that's great. So what you're really saying is kind of the number one bread and butter.
That's right.
Of getting the vote out is that canvassing and that phone banking,
Exactly.
And a lot of times people might not even know where to go to participate, even if they're willing.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So this is one thing that MPA can help you with.
That's right.
That's right. Go to our website, and we're going to have tools to help you. Come to our meetings, and we'll be announcing it. But even where else could they go? Just not trying to get too political, because we're we're nonpartisan.
That's right.
But where else would you go, no matter who you are? What's kind of the first place?
Well, you might even just check your email, because I know mine is just loaded with people wanting me to canvass and phone banking. League of Women Voters has canvasses going on and phone banks going on. And certainly the Democratic Party does.
The Republican Party.
And the Republican Party, of course. So those are the places that I primarily think of. Rights and Democracy certainly has many canvases going on, not only for candidates, but for issues as well. We've got a strong education campaign going now.
So if you don't feel comfortable canvassing around an actual person, maybe you're worried, maybe, in my area, maybe people will slam the door.
Right.
But I can go around and canvass or call people about a specific issue that I care about.
That's right.
And that might be a lot easier for people to do.
For some people. But I kind of wanted to move a little bit beyond that, because I think some people freeze up. I think that many people do, Mary. This is not uncommon in my conversations with people. And what I wanted to do for those people is give them ideas of other things they can do that are as effective, potentially, as the canvassing and the phone banking, that I think everyone can do.
And which is really about community and your own community, rather, your own known community, your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, rather than going out maybe into that broader community.
Exactly. One of the most powerful things that someone can do is to include voting conversations into their everyday conversation. And I actually I thought of that if I'm on a phone bank, why can't I just call the people that I know? in general and ask them to vote. Why does it have to be these specific people on this paper? And I started thinking about that, and I actually did a little research on that and found a little bit of information. I did find, and I'm going to look at this a little bit, people are more likely to vote when they've been contacted by someone they know. That is, the research confirms that. So, whether you're however you're contacting them, I think of, okay, if I'm in the grocery store, I might run into people. I know that many of us run into others.
Yeah, Keene's small.
Keene's small.
Our towns around are rather small.
That's right.
Yeah.
So open up that conversation. I know you vote. What's your plan for voting? You are going to be getting out there November 6th, right? So you bring that conversation into your everyday conversations. Make a goal for yourself. 6 of my conversations today are going to include voting.
And that's just voting. We don't have to worry about offending anyone.
That's
we
right.
don't have to worry about getting into any arguments. We just want everyone to go and vote, and that is all of our really duty as a citizen.
It is.
It's our responsibility.
It certainly is. And you're not going to offend anyone just by asking them to go vote.
Yeah, or let's hope not.
Yeah, right.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
Okay, so any casual conversation. It could be in your driveway. It could be at
That's
the
right.
grocery store. It could be when someone calls you on a phone. It could be at a dinner party, right?
That's right. All of those casual conversations that we have, so many of through every day, could include an ask to vote. Or actually, the research also suggests that instead of using voting as a verb, that we change it to a noun. And we include the idea, you as a voter. I know you're a voter. Or since you're going to vote, how are you going to make a plan? Because that's another one, is making a plan.
So maybe if they work and we know that it's hard to get to the voting booths.
That's right.
Or they don't drive.
Or they don't drive.
And they're not so, it's not so easy for certain people to get out of the house, right?
That's right. Or they have kids or run a business. All of those things can be obstacles.
Yeah, to getting out, and that really helps them in their mind, wait, I need to make a plan.
That's right. That's exactly right. And those are the people that it's really important to at least put that in their minds, that they need to be thinking in that way.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that's really wonderful to get that conversation open and to let it be this nonpartisan, in our environment where everything is so just can flame up so easily.
Exactly.
Let's try, let's get this approach. Let's get people thinking about voting, and maybe a little bit off of kind of the ongoing, battles that we're seeing, and maybe that will help help them feel like, oh wow, I do want to vote.
Right.
I can make a plan.
We have to get the voter turnout, Mary. Right now, as I understand it, the polling, if you as well as you can buy that, is saying that we have that the Democratic Party has a 80% chance of taking the House. And I just want to remind everyone that in November of 2016, Hillary was expected to win by 85%. So we can't count on a blue wave. And I want to say that it's true that MPA, we are nonpartisan, but right now I don't believe we have independents running that necessarily reflect our views. And right now, the Democratic Party does appear to reflect our views the best.
Okay,
so I want to be clear about that. We are a nonpartisan, which opens us up to supporting independents or even Republicans. But
right now, the alignment with our issues that are most important to us, because we really like to go and canvass a lot on issues.
That's right.
Right, that's what we do. We canvass a lot on issues because we are nonpartisan. They just seem to just kind of line up with the Democratic Party.
they do. And so I am going to take a little bit of liberty there, at this point, because we know who we have running now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think
we
we
do know who we have running. So we have this canvas, we have phone banks, we have this casual conversation, which you said we know is really effective.
Very effective.
Now, what can we do for a person that hasn't voted? Maybe they're just becoming eligible to vote. Maybe they just were tuned out and now they want to tune themselves in. So what can we do as everyday citizens, while we're taking that conversation, to voting?
Right.
What can we do? How can we prep for that?
Well, our voting rights working group is going to be in the next couple of weeks setting up tables downtown and passing information out of what you need to go vote. Right now, you certainly need proof of, you need probably like a driver's license, some kind of positive ID. You need proof of your residence where you live. But we're going to have all of that out there. I think you'll be seeing it probably periodically downtown over the next few weeks leading up to elections.
So downtown Keene,
Downtown
you're going to
Keene.
see maybe MPA, Rights and Democracy, League of Women Voters.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Possibly. I know our
and
voting
different
rights
groups.
group is,
Okay,
we're in that conversation right
so,
now.
So the MPA voting rights group is going to have that information for everybody. And so someone has their New Hampshire driver's license, they have maybe a passport, but a passport isn't really going to show that you live in New Hampshire.
That's right.
Right?
So you probably have to take a phone bill that has your name on it.
Yeah, or
Some
it's maybe
kind of-
Eversource, something.
Although your driver's license would.
Yeah, your driver's license should, because that's what you need to show when you get a driver's license. I just came here a few years ago, and I had to put that whole packet together. So it is a pretty big business to get your driver's license. I got that extra one, for flying, which is that's a lot more information that you need to show. So if someone has that one, that's really saying, wow, they've really showed New Hampshire.
There we go.
But I think what's most important is that people know their rights, right? That people know that they can go to the voting booth and that they have the right information to vote, and they shouldn't let themselves be intimidated, because I have heard about some people being intimidated.
And here in New Hampshire, we do have same-day voting. So you can show up at your polling place with all the information you need, and you can even vote a provisional ballot if you don't have everything.
So there's so many options here.
There are.
But it's probably a really good idea to be ready and know what you need.
Right.
Right. So if you're at home and you're not sure, look around in Keene for our tables, the voting rights group, helping you, understand and know you have that information, or look online. Right?
Sure.
Search online for New Hampshire voting if you feel comfortable with that. Or you can always go to our website, MPA, the MPA website, which is going to come up on this screen for you, right? So go ahead and just go there, and we'll have some information for you that some links for you. So if you don't feel comfortable searching the web yourself. So we've done the canvassing, we've done the phone bank, we've done the casual conversation, and now if we're going to have that casual conversation, we know that we should educate ourselves.
That's right.
About what is the voting, what you need to bring.
Right.
So after this show, I just showed my driver's license because it had the New Hampshire address on it.
Right.
And I didn't need anything else. I did do same-day voting within this past year, and it was really easy. But I do know that maybe different towns may be doing slightly different things, too.
Well, you do have to show up with your driver's license, even after you're registered.
But if you don't have a
Even if you
driver's
know
license,
everybody.
then you need to know what you need to bring.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So go to our website, go to your town's website, call your town clerk. All of these ideas are, really easy ways to learn to learn what you need to do. Okay, so I'm now going to, after the show, I'm going to go and look at a few towns. So when I'm down in Keene, maybe with your group, I can give people really sound advice.
Sure.
But what else could we be doing that's even, for people that are really shy, that maybe don't like to talk, or they feel like I don't want to say anything because maybe my neighbors or my friends wouldn't like to hear this.
Right.
What are some, even a little bit for the shyer person?
For the shyer, there's always sending postcards. Send crazy, silly, fun postcards, and all you have to write on it is, please vote November 6th, or don't forget to vote, or I know you're voting November 6th. What's your plan?
And maybe if it's a neighbor or someone close by and you have the ability, you could say, I'll give you a ride. If you know that they have problems, or I'll watch your kids, or
that's right.
Whatever you're willing and able to offer to them.
Exactly.
Right, to help them out.
That's for sure.
And so postcards are kind of snail mail. Is there something more?
Well, certainly texts and.
Okay, texts. We do have to know their phone number, so
you
definitely
do have to know
right
that.
in the friend zone.
Yes,
So.
the friend zone. I really want to emphasize this power of the friend zone. You've got a circle of friends. You've got a circle of people, and use it.
Yeah.
Absolutely use it. Text. Conversations. It's those one-to-one conversations, human to human, that are so powerful. And hearing from a friend in a text, hearing from a friend in a postcard, those are so powerful. And we really need to use that, or even on our Facebook pages.
Yeah, because a lot of people we stay in touch with via Facebook. And we could even make this broader, because on Facebook, we're going to have people maybe even outside New Hampshire, but we're just saying, hey, let's vote.
That's right.
Let's get together and vote.
Yes.
And there's all sorts of social media that you could do, maybe a meme, that is like, you see a meme online that just says, get out the vote.
That's right.
You can always share it.
You sure can. All of that helps. Every little bit helps.
And then what about, and this is really kind of an issue for New Hampshire, what about those out-of-town people? What about the people that are coming here to go to school, or they know they're going to be away?
Right.
What can we do to help those people?
Well, they need to ask for their absentee ballot. And different towns have different times, I believe, for requesting or different ways of requesting the absentee ballot. So this is probably the time, if you know you're not going to be here November 6th, this is the time to contact the town hall or city hall and get that absentee ballot.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So that's another assignment. If you haven't voted before and you want to vote this midterm election, but you're going to be away, make sure you call your town clerk, right?
That's right. You cannot wait till November 6th.
No, not if you're not going to be there. So get that absentee ballot and get yourself ready.
Absolutely.
Right. And maybe we can put some information up on the website. Do you think that's possible?
I think that's a really good idea, and certainly we could get some links on the website. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, so there again, remember, go to the MPA website because we're going to be putting up information and links to help you as well.
And
you can always email us if you don't see something that you need, and we'll get back with you. We are all about helping everybody vote.
Absolutely.
So,
and Mary, by the time this airs, we will have it on.
yeah. Yep.
So let's make that a plan.
Yeah. So, those are really 5 nice things to remember to do, right? If you feel able, canvas and phone bank. Make sure in your conversations you're asking people, hey, are you going to vote? And then, what can you do? Make sure you learn the steps for new voters so you can help them, especially maybe the high school kids that are just getting this right for the first time. Help them out. And then send postcards, text, use social media, and really just say, get out the vote. And finally, make sure that if you know any of your friends that are not going to be here in New Hampshire to vote, remind them, get there early. Now is the time. So anyone that's not going to be here to vote, send them a little text. Hey, did you get your absentee ballot yet?
That's right.
But
That's right.
These are all great ideas, but at the whole show, I've been looking at that piece of blue tape on your shirt, and I've been wanting to ask about it, but I wanted to go through this really important list that you provided for me.
Yes.
So what's going on there?
Well, this is a little brainstorm from the group Monadnock United 2018, and their goal is to turn things over in this vote into the Turn New Hampshire Blue. And so they've got a campaign. This is the Stick with Blue campaign.
Oh, this.
So we've got some painter's tape, and you can write on it. You can cut it out in the shape of New Hampshire and give people a piece of tape. And what we want to do is start conversations. And because when I'm walking down the street, people ask me, as you just did, why are you wearing a piece of painter's tape? And then it opens the conversation for change, the change that we need in our state and in our country. And it opens those one-to-one conversations that are so critical to turning things around.
Yeah, and really bringing civility and community.
With a lighthearted approach.
Yes, I like this. Now I have my piece of blue tape.
That's right.
My
Stick with
shirt.
blue.
Yes,
so
stick
I'm
with
now
blue.
carrying my painter's tape around, and for my new Stick with Blue.
Painter's tape does come a little bit thinner than that as well.
It does. You can even make a little check mark out of the thin painter's tape.
Oh, but then you would
All
have to
sorts
go
of
around with a
things
piece
you
of
can do.
paper with it checked, or else the person has to,
You can do anything you want.
Yeah,
That's
it's creative.
the beauty. Be creative.
Yes,
Go for it.
As a scientist, I'm like, just a piece of tape, stick it. But
That's right.
all the artists, watching the show are like, no, I'll do something so much
do anything
fancier.
you want with it. You can draw on this. You can write Stick with Blue on this. You can use the skinny. There are no rules.
Yeah, that's what's nice about these
But
kind
we
of
wanna
fun and
remind-
silly campaigns, right?
That's right.
But then when people see each other with the blue, that's nice too. It's like a nice little identifier. Hey, you had a conversation already.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it reminds us all to stick with blue with this coming vote.
And blue is not just this Democratic, party is called the Blue Party.
That's right.
And it just so happens, and I don't think it has anything to do with the Democratic Party, it happens to be the color of MPA.
It is, and you're right. That was a coincidence. But
it was total coincidence.
That was not planned for that.
our umbrella organization had taken green, and we were like, okay, what color are we going to do, right?
Yeah. And honestly, I know that I was one of the deciders on the blue, and the connection with the Democratic Party had nothing to do with that
I know, it
decision.
didn't even come into my mind either.
I didn't think of it.
But I know that you brought a T-shirt, and I was wondering if you could just kind of hold that up, because if you are interested, we're also selling T-shirts and sweatshirts.
Yep.
So if you've come to our meetings, or you're really interested in learning more about MPA, come out when we're tabling. I'm sure that you might have some of these T-shirts.
We have these T-shirts for sale. Yes, we do.
And when we're tabling, maybe about the voting rights, we might have a few of these there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the sweatshirts as well.
And the sweatshirts, yeah.
Because it's getting to be fall.
Yes, it is fall.
We are changing seasons, so yes, indeed.
Okay, well, it was really nice talking to you today and giving people some tips on what to do.
Yes.
And how they can make change even if they don't want to get on the phone or, walk that pavement from
There's something
place to
we
place.
all can do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just wonderful that you came on, Andrea, and I'm hoping we might be able to get you on, because I know how involved you are in other groups.
That's true.
In the future.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just wanted to thank everybody for coming on the show today and listening and learning about these tips to get out the vote this year. And I hope you come back next week and sit with me and visit with my guest on MPA Today.
Step out. Stand up, stand out. Shout it out. Yes, I will. Yes, we can. Yes, I will. Yes, we can. Yes, I will. Yes, we can.